so tonight we have a very special guest that I'm super excited about, Mrs. Jamie Council. So you can describe Jamie with many different terms or categories in terms of careers, but she's been a kicker, a soccer player, and most recently a broadcast journalist. So Jamie, thank you for joining me tonight. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me. I mean, it's a pleasure to be able to speak to somebody who's not only paving the way for young women to play football, but also in the media world herself. I mean, I'm fully intrigued by your career all the way around. I mean, it's amazing to see kind of the different paths you followed. But I wanted to start with, at what age did you develop a love for football, and when was the first time you played organized football?
So my family was a big fan of football. My mom, especially, she still goes to my high school football games to this day. And so I've always liked football and always watched it. And it wasn't until junior high, I would say, when I really started to get into it. And that's kind of, maybe like late into elementary school and junior high, and actually asked to play football at that age. Was told no by my parents, and until the year that I did have the opportunity, that I was old enough to be like, okay, mom and dad, I don't care what you say, I'm going and playing for the football team. It was a different capacity, just being a kicker at that point. But I've always liked the game. Whether it's watching or, I find it really fascinating. So I've always been a fan of football, but I didn't really have the opportunity to play organized, rather than, I was on the playground, playing football at recess time. That was me. And or just like punting the ball. Like, I've always been a soccer player, so I've always kind of had that kick. So, playing three flags up and stuff like that. So I've been around the game, but yeah, my first time playing organized football was senior year of high school.
That's amazing. So the fact that you made it in the professional world and actually got an opportunity to play professional football, having only played that 1 year of high school football, is actually quite amazing. But moving on to the next question, you ended up attending Atascadero High School. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah.
Perfect. So where you participated in four sports, soccer, volleyball, football, and then you also ran track as well, correct?
Yeah. I did play. I don't think I told you this. So this is on me. My freshman year, I played softball, but I didn't play. I didn't have a varsity letter in softball. And then just with the way the sports were, and then I ran track the rest of the time. But yeah.
That's amazing. So you actually played 5 different sports in high school.
Insane. Yeah. I was all over the place.
So which sport of all of those was your favorite at the time?
I mean, I think I like different things about all of them. Soccer was always my main sport, just because I played clubs. So when I was playing track, or running track, I guess I would say, I was running track, and then Tuesday, Thursday, I would still go to club soccer practices. And then on weekends, I would have to sometimes split time between meets and a soccer tournament. So my real time to breathe was during soccer season, which is kind of funny. So that's why it was kind of nice. And there's good things about all of them, I guess, in terms of like sports aspects. And I learned something different from all of them. So I really couldn't say a favorite. I would say maybe soccer, just because that was my main sport, so to speak. But yeah, I think that I took something away from all of them, but I would say track, soccer, and football were definitely my favorites.
Very nice, very nice. So you kind of had an interesting path to ultimately playing on the varsity football team. So talk to me about how your time in Powder Puff football ultimately led to you being recruited to be the kicker for your varsity team.
Yeah, so like I said, I was always, playing on the playground and, kicking with, even when I was placed in a junior and senior weightlifting class when I was a freshman, because there was too many kids in the regular PE class, and the kicker at that time, I think he went on to kick at San Jose State. We would be kicking just during gym class and stuff. So I've always kind of been around people, but it wasn't until the kicker that they did have, we had graduated. So there was really no kicker on the team that was there. So then during Powder Puff, the football players coach the girls. And so I was quarterback one of my years, and I think I don't know, that was so long ago, but wide receiver. But then I was also the kicker, and just they were marching me back, and we got to like 45, and they're like, "This isn't good for just a girl." And so some of my friends talked me into trying out and going out there, and I did.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, obviously, you must be quite talented at kicking field goals if they're recruiting you at that point. They must have seen what you were able to do at that point. I mean, especially for high school boys to admit that they need to go grab a girl to make their team better, which I mean, more power to them as coaches to actually see your talent and bring you there. That's awesome on their part. So let's fast forward a little bit to when you get on the field for the first time. I understand that this took a little bit longer than it should have, but talk to me about how you felt scoring your first points ever.
I think I was just like pretty frozen at that point, like I don't know, I'm pretty good at just kind of clearing my head and just focusing at the task at hand. It's kind of one of the good and bad parts of being in high pressure situations is that you don't really think of it as a high pressure situation. You just think of it as, well, this is what I've been practicing, and you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. It's not, oh, this would be so amazing if I did this, because then you're thinking about the result rather than like the task at hand. So no, it was cool to be able to do that. And like mentioned, it took a little longer than I thought it should have. And that's kind of ancient history, but yeah, it was a pretty cool experience. And then talking to people afterwards, I think that was when I really realized, I guess, just how cool it was hearing it from other people's perspectives, because in my head I'm just like, this is what I want to do. This is, and I'm just so like tunnel vision. And it's not until you kind of hear it from other people's perspectives that you're like, oh, like that was actually pretty cool.
That's a great point. I mean, I guess as an athlete, you kind of have to be living in the moment to kind of focus on what like you said, your task at hand. So I can imagine that you kind of don't necessarily think about the gravity of the moment. But I mean, yeah, I mean, that was obviously a very inspiring moment. It's still a very inspiring to hear that you're getting an opportunity to kick at the professional level. I mean, I wish that more teams would look past gender and simply sign a player because they can play, and hopefully we're getting closer and closer to that day with more players like you who can go out there and do it. Which, by the way, really well written article about your career and your situation. It's called Looking for an Opportunity to Fail. There was a quote in there that I really wanted to highlight, that you said it was a great experience in high school, not always positive, but things don't always have to be positive to be a good experience. Can you kind of compound on that thought for me?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously that was just kind of in a conversation just having with her, so it's kind of sometimes I say what I actually mean. But I think it's that it wasn't positive, but at the same time, looking back, I regret nothing. That's kind of what you have to take away from it, was what did you take away from an experience that you had? And I would have regretted if I hadn't done it. And people always say, oh, I should have done this, I could have done this, or this would have worked out. But until you actually do it, stop complaining, stop talking about it. And I learned a lot from the experience. And so yeah, it wasn't always positive. There was a lot of things that I wish were different going through it, but at the same time, I took a lot from it, and I learned a lot as a person, and I'm a much better person because of it.
Absolutely. I completely understand that. We're going to run through some comments real quick. Sean, the host of the Tropical Storm, a CIF show that we're hosting here on Shady Sports Network. He said she should come kick for the Tropics. I agree. So we'll have to get in the ear of the owner, Trevor Burdett, over there. Kevin Simmons, we're live, baby. Sean, again, we need a kicker. So yeah, we'll definitely, like I said, we'll try and make that happen. Salute Can't Hide Talent, Lorenz Stefan from the Wenatchee Valley Skyhawks last season. And then Jeff Kinney, glad to be a part of her Rush experience. Yeah. So a lot of support, of course, as well deserved. So this whole time you just wanted a chance to play and kind of show what you could do. Obviously, the title of the article was Opportunity to Fail. So how difficult was it sitting and watching as you watched somebody else repeatedly fail in your place?
Yeah, it was really frustrating. And I think male or female, everybody goes through things, and not having experience, females being in male shoes, I think that it's dumb to be like, oh, this is tougher, because everybody experiences something, but I can only speak of my experiences. So that's kind of how I view the whole gender thing. So I think it was tough for me that people were like, well, why do you want to play? Why? Like, everybody wants to know why. But if a guy went out for the team, it's not, well, why do you want to play? Like, are you X, Y, Z? Put whatever you want in there. I don't even want to get into, some of the things like that. So that was really tough, that a lot of people doubted why I was out there, what I wanted to do. And it's really hard in your mind to be able to see past that and be like, I feel like I can help the team and do this. Like, is that so tough for people to understand? And it really is, which it's just kind of different. I grew up with 3 brothers, so I've always kind of been in male dominated situations. And so for me, like, yeah, it sometimes is a little bit uncomfortable, but like I'm fine in that situation, and working in sports in general and stuff like that. But it was really tough. And then during that time, I guess the biggest thing, I haven't really said anything like this. Like I said, it was ancient history, and it was a different time, I guess. And there wasn't really any conversations about, even since then or at that time, about, well, this was this or that was that. It was beginning of the season, the coach said, I'll put the best person on the field. But then every single week I won kicking competitions, and every single week I didn't kick. So it's like, this is the words coming out of the mouth, and this is what actually happens. And I mean, at that time, you don't want to rock the boat, especially when people are already doubting your, I guess, why you want to be there. So the last thing you want to do is rock the boat. You want to be a good teammate. You want to be a good athlete. You want to be, just the best team is, or the best person. It's like people say, like, the best thing you could do is make sure I don't hear from you, because that way nobody really notices, and you're just in movement with the team and stuff. So it was kind of weird at that time, because I didn't, and my feelings at that time weren't really known. And so it was just a really weird situation. I think that goes back to the quote of, things don't always have to be positive to be a good experience. I learned a lot from it. And taking a look back, like, I wish I would have had these difficult conversations, but being a high schooler, you don't really know how it will be received. And so, maybe I was right in not rocking the boat, or trying not to rock the boat at all, and just kind of taking what I was served and sitting down and being happy about it,
100%. I mean, it's kind of like that Tim Tebow, Colin Kaepernick effect to a whole nother level. You know what I mean? They kind of got blackballed due to the messages they were sending, not necessarily their abilities on the field. And I could only imagine it would be tenfold for a woman trying to get into a man or a sport that is male dominated, as we've talked about off camera. So, I mean, I can't imagine you being in that position in high school and trying to navigate that in a world that is not very open to talk about what, your true feelings are and stuff like that. I mean, when it comes to football, I don't know if they necessarily treated you differently, but everybody's supposed to be very macho and like hide your feelings, ready for war type feeling. So I can only imagine it could have been very difficult for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is about doing the job, and I don't want to sit down and let's kumbaya and talk about our feelings, but I think it's also something where I don't know, just the first day of practice, like if there is an elephant in the room, you have to talk about it. So I wasn't a skill player. I was just trying to kick. And be at practices, and a lot of my friends were linemen. They're like, come do drills with us. So I was a kicker and I was doing drills with the linemen, and one of the very first thing the coaches said was, I don't coach males, I don't coach females, I coach athletes. And that was so long ago, and that's one thing that stuck in my mind. In fact, if he said, if you don't hit her as hard as you hit the next person, we're going to do the drill again. So I had to do the drill so many more times than everybody else, but I was so for that, because I think that just having that slowly people started to see me as a teammate, as an athlete, rather than somebody that was whatever it might be. And it didn't completely spread through, but I know that at least some of the team, it did have that effect. And Kevin commented earlier, and he's like, I've never had a female on the team, and that's something too, is it's new for everybody. So some things you need to be at the same time. It's like, well, you're this, and this, and as a coach should be, because you're supposed to coach, especially at the high school level. It's not, it's a little different where you're developing people and athletes. Like, that's how I view high school sports, and why I think that they're so important as well. So that was something that, looking back, I think that was my biggest thing, was nobody had those conversations with me, and I felt really left in the wind, taking a look back now that I'm so far removed from the situation.
That's fair. That's totally fair. And I mean, I can only imagine, like I said, that must have been very, very tough from that situation. But I mean, at least they kind of allowed you to more or less earn the respect of your teammates, and it went from there. And I know that in Tri-City, it was a little bit different situation where you seem to have your teammates support almost right off the bat, because they seem to notice what you could do. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But one of the things I wanted to discuss with you is, as we spoke about, you played 5 different sports. You had 9 total varsity letters in a total of 4 different sports. Talk to me about your recruitment process. I mean, obviously you're an unbelievable athlete. What were schools recruiting you for? Did they give you an opportunity to play football, or was that just not even on the table for you?
Recruiting was different. Twitter wasn't a thing. The whole social media or digital aspect of recruiting was kind of off the table. And I didn't know anything about recruiting. So I think I scored like 94 goals in high school. Somebody had just checked, so I just recently checked that stat, and I graduated with like a 4.15. I didn't apply to any colleges. I've actually never told that many people that. At that time, I was kind of dumb when it came to college recruiting. Just in the, I guess, environment I was in, I didn't think it was something that was achievable for me at the time, I guess. So I don't really talk about that a lot. So we hear it here on the Shady Sports Network. But I ended up going to college just because a coach that knew me from the club level, because in club sports and in females, a lot of female sports in for male or female, but especially for soccer, which was my sport, I played club, is you be on a club team that you pay for, and they train you and take you to tournaments that are seen by college coaches. I wasn't on a big fancy travel club, and I probably wasn't my biggest advocate at the time either. So I didn't go to any college recruitment camps or anything like that. So yeah, I actually didn't apply to any colleges, and I'm very grateful that I did have the chance to play soccer in college on scholarship, and it just happened to be because a coach that was from my hometown, which was a smaller place, and knew who I was and was able to recruit me and got in as a late applicant to the college.
That's amazing. I would have never guessed that. I mean, especially given the fact that you were, so prominent in so many different sports. I mean, that's crazy. That's a crazy story. But one of the stories that I really wanted to talk about is yet another crazy story. So during my research, I found a story that you actually had a significant injury to your right foot and then had to teach yourself how to kick left-footed. So, how difficult was that task? And talk to me about what you kind of told me off camera about learning to do that while you're still playing soccer at the time.
I was so young at that point. So it was before you even think about injuries. So I was, I don't know, maybe like 8 at the time. I tore my hamstring, and I was playing, rec soccer, and I got moved from forward because I couldn't really run because I had a torn hamstring. But I'm like, I can still. And parents didn't really know much about injuries too, and they're like, just put her on the field. So I just was defender hobbling around, kicking it with my left, not my right, that was torn. I'm already really tall, 5'10", 5'11". I wasn't at 8 years old, but I was still a big kid. So that's why during that time people called me Giraffe, because I kind of ran like a giraffe. And because I didn't take care of it, it didn't heal right. So I didn't have the flexibility. And yeah, taught my left foot. So it was so young that it wasn't like a big, like, oh, I have to reteach myself, because at that age I was still developing as an athlete, as a soccer player. So I didn't really think about it, but yeah, I'm right-handed, left-footed, and then a little bit ambidextrous to kick as well. But my left has a lot more power and a lot more flexion and stuff like that.
Interesting. I can't even imagine trying to teach yourself how to use your non-dominant foot. I can't even imagine trying to do it. I've tried to write with my left hand, and I can't even physically handle it. So
Yeah, but as a
um,
kid, you don't really think about it. You're dumb. You're like, well, this is what I have to do, and you don't. Yeah, I feel like being a dumb kid sometimes does pay off.
I guess in this instance, it definitely does. So forgive me if I mispronounce this college name, but is it Minot College?
Why not? Why not? Why not?
Gotcha. Minot. Okay, Minot College, where you focus primarily on soccer, but you also run track as well. And correct me if these stats are wrong, but you scored 26 points in just 52 games during college. At the time, did you see a future in the professional game for yourself?
Not really. Because women's soccer, that was at the time. So I grew up watching USA. That it closed due to bankruptcy. And then the WPSL was kind of so women's professional soccer wasn't really a big thing, I guess. As well as I know some people go overseas, but I like playing it, but it never really was something where like I was, like, oh, this is my dream. So it was never my dream to make it. If it was, I wouldn't have, been branching out. And I focused on my career a lot, building that up for myself in college. So no, I loved soccer, but it wasn't anything. I think as I got older, it was great, and it gave so much to me. But that wasn't really anything that it wasn't ever my personal dream, I guess. And never really pursued that too much. But yeah, I love to play. And it was fun being a part of the team that was the first couple years that Minot even had a soccer team. So it's kind of fun to be on the front lines as they started up that program.
Very nice, very nice. I would never have guessed that. Once again, I mean, you were so prominent in sports in high school. You went to school on a scholarship due to, soccer. I would have expected that would have been your path, your plan. But you actually started playing, as you spoke about, club soccer on the side. Talk to me about your time participating in this soccer league on the side of everything you had going on with class and sports, etc.
Of being a part of Minot State, or what, or growing up being playing in club soccer.
Oh, you had spoken about getting involved with a semi-professional league while you were still in school.
Oh, that was just one summer. It was, yeah, a lot of the semi-pro leagues are summer leagues, so that way when it's a place to go and train. So, yeah, one summer before my senior year, and then I actually ended up tearing my ACL before what would be my senior year, and so I sat out a year and then came back and played. So it was short-lived when I was in college. So that was, kind of a different experience. My first semi-pro soccer experience ended in a major injury, actually.
Kind of amazing that you went back to the field after that, but more power to you. So this is kind of the point where we divvy away from the football or soccer field, I guess, in this case. Was broadcasting or communications your major in college?
Yeah, it was. When I first started college, it was history. And then I just found opportunities and ended up video production is actually like my actual major.
Very nice. So perfectly fits exactly what you're doing right now. But how did you end up ultimately finding a career in sports broadcasting?
It found me. So I just found opportunities and took those opportunities, and so it's kind of almost like I started and never stopped, and what I'm doing now is just what I started to do that created another opportunity. But if you would have asked me at a young age if that I was going to be doing this, the answer would have been no. I did like to write, so that's kind of one thing that's kind of always been consistent is the writing aspect of it. But as far as the video production, the on-camera stuff, especially the on-camera stuff, that was daunting to me and took me a while to learn. So yeah, just kind of found opportunities and never stopped. I guess it kind of, like I said, fell into my lap. And a lot of people know that, get into it, that they've always wanted to do that, but that's not my not my personal story.
That's amazing. Once again, crazy how you end up kind of following into all these different things, but it works out for you. So for the past couple years, or at least while the article was written, you were working as a sports director for a group of networks. Talk to me about what this job entailed and kind of how you managed this while still pursuing your career in sports as well.
Yeah, so timing, I would say, was what allowed me to fully do that. So I was the sports director for the NBC affiliate KNDU. We're dual market KNGO, and then we also had a secondary sports channel called SWX. So I was in charge of producing content, producing shows, serving as on-air talent for live sports broadcasts. And it was a lot with dual markets and a secondary sports channel. So I was the anchor, producer, and reporter. I had some help, but I was the head of the department for sports in the area. It was a 2-year contract. My contract ended in May, and so I started practicing with the football team before I was actually announced on the team. So that was already kind of a thing. But I knew the end of my contract was coming up, and I was still weighing decisions. But I ended up turning down other job opportunities, not just for football, but things happen for a reason. So I decided to stay in the area. My contract ended in May, and so I was able to, it gave me time to be able to pursue football and not have to worry about, oh, am I dropping the ball with my other job. I knew my contract was coming to an end, which was why a lot of people at the end of the season were like, oh, you're going to come back next season. And I really couldn't say, just because I didn't know where I was at, because I had kind of worked up my career to that point. But it was perfect timing that my contract at the TV station was coming to an end, and then the opportunity to actually be on the other side of things came up, and so it was really cool timing, and everything just lined up perfectly. And I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason, and everything just happened to align for that specific opportunity.
Once again, talk about amazing timing and kind of just falling into something that it just managed to work out for you. It's crazy how that seems to keep happening throughout your story here. So now I apologize because this is kind of the time where we're going to get into rehashing this amazingly well written and researched article on the Women's Sports Collection by author, hopefully I say this correctly, Christian Edler.
Yeah, Christian.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's a tough one, but yeah, Christian Edler.
Okay. But in this article, she tells us how your chance with the Rush all started because of a speech you gave at a youth and high school event that a certain referee happened to attend. Go ahead and rehash the story for us, because this, to me, was like probably the most amazing small world occurrence that you could possibly ask for.
It really is, and I mean, it kind of all came to fruition there, but that was something that, like, I'm, just because I don't play sports, I've always wanted to practice, or even throughout college, I used to practice kicking with some of my one of my friends that was a kicker and stuff. But yeah, speaking, it was actually Jeff Kinney earlier that commented. I was talking on behalf of the TV station at an event that we were, Steve, glad to be a part of the Rush experience. He's my unofficial manager there. But yeah, I was talking, and I knew most of the people, and so I guess I just opened up with a joke and was like, for anybody that thinks women aren't qualified, I have a varsity letter, and just kind of joking around with them, and loosening up the floor a little bit, and they weren't having as much luck in the kicking world. And so I think it kind of started on a three-way joke between me and him, and then he texted Brandon Tate right then, and then it was kind of a joke with them of, okay, there's this person that doesn't really play football, and so just kind of all of us following up on this big joke. And it wasn't until that I worked out a little bit harder and really trained for it, and I had the experience, even though you're not playing on a team, it wasn't really something that I had the opportunity to do. But then going out, just kicking them right down the middle, and so they're like, oh, like, and then I just kept showing up, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep showing up until they tell me to go home. That was kind of how I how I approached it, so I don't know if I was just very thankful for the opportunity. Like Jeff said, it was never a joke on my part, and so that's how a lot of people do approach it. And so they needed a kicker. I thought I had what it took to do it, and it proved that I was able to. So yeah, I went out to practice with them, and a lot of the guys, I showed up and didn't really say much, just kind of being there. They're like, what is she doing there? And yeah, just kept showing up. And then before one game, they invited me to show up early. I wasn't officially on the team, and to actually kick in the arena. And so a lot of the crowd was there and like watching me kick, and was super excited, and was like, you were nailing them, and this and that. And then they eventually had me sign a contract and invited me to go on the field, where once again I was able to do it with a line running at me. So it was just being able to prove myself first, and just keep showing up, I guess.
Absolutely. Talk about, once again, just an amazing story. We're going to run through some comments real quick. Dwayne Autry, you deserve the same chance. Same simple. That simple. Growing up with three brothers, you got thick skins. Salute to you. Tyler Larkin, Sam Shady with another dope interview. I would say that the dope story came from her. I was just lucky to get it on here. Girls can do anything guys can. That's a I'm just gonna skip that one. Irish says, "Hey girl," and I think we got everything covered. Jeff Klein with a couple of them, but anyway, so Coach Tate, the owner coach of the Rush, gets the text and ultimately brings you in. Talk to me about the whirlwind of feelings that you must have occurred going from a respected sports anchor who's asked to speak in front of a youth event to suddenly playing in a professional football game.
It was kind of funny. I wasn't sure what to expect when, the news would break. And like I said, I knew my contract was coming to an end. So that was, I think, what allowed me to kind of be like, I don't really care what other people think. I'm going to do what I want to do. And this is something that I want to do. And so I already knew that my time as the sports director was coming to an end. So yeah, I really didn't care what people thought. I just was focused on doing the job. So people could have said whatever. People probably did say whatever behind closed doors, but when it came down to it, I earned the spot. I had practiced for long before they signed me. I was with the team, practicing, talking to Tate, doing things behind the scenes that weren't well known. So to be honest, I really didn't think about what other people would say because I earned the spot and I was just focused on doing the job at hand. That, people that try to focus, oh, she's a female. Well, that's just something that one of my friends is like, doesn't matter. Like you're a good kicker, period. And so that's something that I just kind of have to remind myself that people try to be like, oh, you're a girl doing it. It's like, it doesn't matter what my, whether I have an X or a Y when it gets on the football field, that's not going to put up more points or less points or whatever it is. It's just about doing the job. And so just trying to not think about that. And I mean, of course, like I'm not like trying to be a bro, that's something that, I feel like a lot of females that do go and male dominated are like, oh, well, I need to act like a bro and act like this. Like, no, like I'm a female, it's fine. But then at the same time, I think that it should be about the job. So it's definitely a balancing act, I would say, because I don't try to act like a bro because I'm not a bro. And that's kind of, something different that's been kind of fun. A fun part of the whole ride. But yeah, I really didn't think about what people would say. I just was focused on being able to actually do the job because you do have more eyes. And that was a little bit more pressure because when I had my first game, for example, people are commenting, how did the girl do? How did the girl do? It's just like, I'm such a small part of the team, especially how much talent that Rush team had. So I hope I got some eyes on some of the other talented players just by people wanting to know how the girl did. But I'm a kicker. I'm not on the field, and there's so many talented players on that. So I think that a lot more people deserve I guess more praise than I get just for being a girl and be able to kick the ball straight. But I guess it's harder than it is because I was, the only one able to do it. So there we go.
I was going to say your performance speaks for itself. You were one of the more accurate kickers on the Rush all season long, for that matter. And ultimately, you ended up winning the job based on your abilities, not based on anything other than that. So your performance was quite solid throughout the season. In fact, I believe you were the only kicker all season long to convert on a field goal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I was 1-for-1 for field goals, so we didn't go for field goals too often. Usually they would go for it. But I am actually the only one to score a field goal in Rush history. We've only had 2 seasons, but I didn't play their first season and I played part of the second season. So Rush in the general have scored 1 field goal. And so yeah, 1-for-1 on field goals.
That's amazing. So you go down in history on one of the greatest arena organizations ever, in my personal opinion, as the only person to ever convert a field goal for that team. That's pretty awesome. Norman Roth checking in. You did great. It was fun watching the ride. Well, I would say it's probably far from over, given that you're a multi-talented person and there's multiple different ways to follow you in the future. But I'm kind of curious that you got to the point in that season where you were inevitably faced with a battle with Jesus Solis, the man that you replaced who was injured to begin with. Do you agree with the decision to relegate you back to the bench for the championship game?
Yes and no. I mean, I kind of understand it, but I kind of don't. And again, kind of going back to the same thing in high school, I mean, I think Coach Tate, amazing coach, and it's amazing what he's done for a lot of the players. That there was no real conversation to be had. It was just posted, and that was that. So I mean, from my personal standpoint, I know there was some controversy about that. I was brought in before Solis was hurt, so that's not, oh, he got hurt, and that was, the story that was put out there. But again, to be heard on Shady Sports Network, that's kind of how it went down. I was brought in before he was hurt. But when it comes down to it, I haven't played a lot of football. So the rush doesn't matter if, only one PAT was scored in that game, and it was late in the fourth quarter. The rush didn't need the kicking point. So I feel like fans like the kicking game. They like that. And the rush just removed that part of the game because they saw, okay, well, this is somebody that we're not worried to put on. And this is, I think, the big thing when it comes to females playing sports is what would it be like putting me on kickoff? And I think that conversation never was had. So I'm not putting the words in anybody's mouth, but I think it came down to they didn't care about PATs. They knew they didn't want them, and it just came down to putting somebody on kickoff, and that wasn't me. So if you want to look at it, who would have, if scoring points from the kicking game was something they were worried about, I would have been the one chosen, but they didn't want to do that. So, I mean, that's how I take it. So was the right decision made? I mean, they won a championship. So, I guess the right decision was made. They won. If I would have been suited up, would they have won? Probably. But you know what? That's not my decision. And I'm just grateful to have been a part of the team and the team that was there. I'm just one small part of the team. So, full congrats to the guys that suited up that game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it sounds like from the comments I'm about to read that Mr. Solis was touched by your personal journey being a father of a daughter. So I'm going to read his comment real quick. Jamie Ann, like I have told you many, many times, so much respect for your accomplishments and success you had this season. I'm a girl dad that has seen the excitement firsthand of what your success in the sport has done for young females. This part of the business that is difficult when you push each other to get better, and then the decision has to be made between two players on who suits up and who are competing for the spot. Unfortunately, I turned out to be the bad person of sorts in this situation, to where I had our own fans cheering for me to fail. It doesn't affect me, as I've played many games with a whole lot worse said to me during games, but my young nephews and family asking me after the game why some of our fans were being so rude towards me and hoping I fail is the ugly part of the business that has made me think about ever stepping foot on the field again. Yes, we competed against each other, but we are still teammates, and champion teammates at that. And I will always be proud to call you a teammate on this championship team and season. I don't think people know how much of a Jamie supporter I really was this season, but I think you do. Our talks we've had and advice were always genuine. I have made new brothers and a sister this season. I am very proud of each and every single one of us. Much love for you, Jamie, and I know you have not played your last game. So what are your thoughts on that comment from him, and especially that last part? Have you played your last game?
Well, those are two very separate questions. So first, to talk about, Jesus, he was put in, a tough situation, and of course it's hard not to take things personal. And so, I sent him a message off of the public eye, and just being like checking in on him, because obviously he didn't make the decision. And we had some really great talks throughout the season. I think when I first came in, like I said, it was before he was hurt. There was a little bit of, there's always going to be a little bit, especially just the oh, you're being replaced by a girl. Like, you know, that's just the general thinking. And a lot of people, you know, like to joke and stuff. But I think just because I think that, you know, he didn't make PATs, and that's just what I tried to explain to him, is that it wasn't anything, you know, personal against him. I think people were, I was in the crowd. I did attend the game. I wouldn't have missed it. I, you know, have a lot of brothers on that team, and I supported them regardless if I was suited up or not. And so just try to explain that, you know what, when you weren't making them, they just were, it wasn't against them. They just thought the wrong kicker was chosen, and they won. So I think that it doesn't matter because they won, and he's the kicker they went with, and he you know, he had the job, and I had a different standpoint on them because I was in the crowd, and maybe I didn't hear anything people had said because of where I was sitting, or maybe somebody did say that. But all the things that I heard was people just were shouting, either put in the girl or we want Jamie. You know, that's all I heard, but that's not saying that something didn't happen there. But that was my personal standpoint, or my personal view of it, is that it's really hard to take things, to not take things personal. And he was, I think, upset about his performance. I went 1-for-4 in the Wenatchee game. I got blocked, hit the post once, and he went 1-for-4 in that game. The last one he made was in the fourth quarter. And I think after he missed the first whatever, they decided to just go for 2 points. But it was a non-issue. We won the game. So I think that was just a little bit in his feelings. And I would be too if he was put in an impossible situation. And I have nothing but respect for him. And, you know, like I said, when I first came in, there was a little bit of, you know, that energy of, oh, like, who is this? What's going to go on? But as it went on, and just having those genuine conversations, we really ended up to be, you know, teammates and like a brother. And so it was a good conversation to have, but it was an impossible situation on his standpoint, where, you know, it was unfortunate. But the way I saw it was that they just were rooting for me, and it then ended up looking negative in his eyes towards him, and I'd feel the same way if I was in his shoes.
That's fair. That's totally fair. We're going to run through a couple more comments real quick. One in particular I wanted to get to. Jamie, you are a real inspiration for all of us. Love hearing about all of these adventures. From Diane Serber. Jeff Kinney again, you earned your ring. Irish Blue, Solus was like 1-for-4 or 5 in the ship. Leave it up to Irish to bring that up. We have a place for you on the field in stripes, says Jeff. Irish has another thought in mind. Jamie, you have not played your last game, if I have a say in that. We already talked about that. Norman, again, keep pushing. You will excel on another team. And Norman, one more time, that would be great if she played for Wenatchee. We will probably be following them now. So Norman's a diehard Tri-City Rush fan. Actually, the man who provided me with these posts that you guys posted. So thanks, Norman. I appreciate your contributions to this interview. But we're going to move on to another topic at hand. How difficult was it for you to sit and watch your team win a championship while you're on the sideline?
Yeah, it was really tough, and I think I can't believe big thank you to Florentino Gutierrez. I think that there's a picture that summed it up. And, you know, I'm holding it in because obviously you don't want to be the person that's like, oh, well, I wasn't on the field, and, you know, I don't want to take away anything from the team. They earned that, and they would have won whether me or Solis was on the field. That's the long and the short of it. So I was trying to keep things in perspective. And of course I'm going to be in my feelings. I worked so hard, you know, to earn the spot, as well as there was a month between the last game, or 2 months. There was a long time, over a month, between the last game and the championship. I didn't find out until Thursday night that I wasn't playing in the championship. So I was practicing you know, a lot and working out that whole entire time for this opportunity. And I can't say the same about everybody. So just the fact that, you know, I was very in my feelings. So it was tough, and I don't wish any, you know, bad thing on anybody or the team or whatever. I was just so proud of them because I'm one small part of the team, right? Like I'm a kicker. People only care if they miss, right? And so, but that picture, Kev ended up, Simmons was like, Jamie, and, you know, I'm just kind of sitting there, and like, I just, at that point, I felt like I didn't deserve, you know, like I wasn't part of the team, you know, and so I was in my feelings for sure. And, you know, kind of holding it all together, and Kev shouted and gave me a hug, and I lost it. I just like, I started, you know, tearing up a little bit, and you saw that in that picture, and that was actually the first time that I'd really let those feelings come out, and somehow somebody snapped a picture at that moment. So there's a picture that kind of shows my feelings at that time. But yeah, I was definitely in my feelings about it. I worked really hard, and my name wasn't called, and it is what it is. But that doesn't take away from anything from the team and what they earned. And I didn't want it to come across like that.
That's completely fair, and that's called being a good teammate. So more, you know, good on you for being able to hold aside your personal feelings in a situation like that. So unfortunately, as we all know, it kind of broke earlier on this week. After 2 historic seasons, Coach Tate was forced to shut down the Tri-City Rush. So I wanted to get your particular feelings on this situation, given that you had already agreed to resign for the 2023 season. What was your reaction upon hearing the news that the Rush had shut down?
So I found out with everybody else. So yeah, I had signed a contract, and was, you know, the only kicker that they were signing was, you know, so it was kind of fun and stuff like that. But then I found out with everybody else that due to financial reasons, the Rush were no longer going to be an organization, and were shutting their doors. So I feel like I didn't really have time to completely process it, what it meant, you know, and I still fully don't know. I don't think anybody does, like what it means for the players. And yeah, it sucks. I feel like with the Fire coming in, the Fire had been the indoor team here before the Rush, and they shut their doors and took everybody's money. They didn't complete contracts. They didn't give back ticket holders money. So the Rush had an uphill battle and decided to start an arena team coming out of COVID. And so it doesn't surprise me, just because the nature of arena in general is very volatile. And so, I mean, it makes sense that it happened, but it sucks that it did.
100%, 100%. Actually, I was kind of surprised to see this name pop up in the comments, but Jesus Solis, to make it fair to our coaching staff, we did have a competition before the championship for the spot. All love for me. You have what it takes. It was kind of a sour end for me how it ended, but we were a team playing a team sport, and we won as a team. Go Rush. At the end of the night, I didn't perform to my level or expectations, and I will take that one on the chin. Hey, good on you for saying that. But with that being said, I've got 2 more questions for you tonight. And of course, I have to ask this question. What does it mean to you being an inspiration for young women and men, of course, who are out there that have a love for football and want to pursue this career, or pursue a career playing this sport?
I mean, I just do things that I can. I think I don't really think about it in that level. I just think about that, you know, what I want to do. But I've had it's opened up the doors to have some pretty cool interactions with people in Wenatchee. I was about to go on the field, and one of the security guards, or, you know, just going, not security for the venue, but I think she just was monitoring the team rooms, making sure that everything was going good. And she kind of grabbed me to the side and was like, my granddaughter wants to play football. I don't really know if I want to let her. And she kind of asked me my opinion. And and so it was kind of weird to me, and I just was like, well, like, why wouldn't you let her? Do you want her to go her whole life thinking what had happened if I had done this, and her always remembering? Because at the end of the day, men and female are different. We are built different, and what they can do. And I know at one point in my life I was, actually lifting and was, training different. And during that point in my life, like, I could have. And I don't know. I just think that if people don't fail and find out for themselves, it's kind of bad on it to put how things would have happened. They say, oh, well, she can't do it. Why not? Like, the opportunity to fail. I don't think we've talked about what that means, and that's huge for me. The opportunity to fail is that people think, oh, well, a female can't do it. Oh, no, they can't do this. But the thing is how do you know? People automatically assume what people are capable of. You put somebody on the field, okay, they get blown up. They are like, okay, I don't want to play anymore. Now I know. Rather than thinking, what if? So I'm like, let her go in there. Let her take a couple hits. You're wearing so much pads. And if she decides she doesn't want to do it, or, like I'm a kicker, it's not the same for me completely. Like, yeah, I've been in situations where maybe not at the rush, and it never came down to that, but I was put in situations in high school where I did have to get a little physical, and I didn't die. So I don't know. I just think that that's what an opportunity to fail is. I think that it's cool being able to share my experiences with people, rather than ideas of I've actually gone through a lot of them. So it's really cool to be able to share my experiences and be able to have people learn from that, and maybe just look at things a little differently.
Absolutely. And for anybody making the argument that there aren't women out there that can play the game, I would just throw out there that Tutu Atwell is like 5'6", 150 pounds. So there's plenty of women that can out there that have the size, the athleticism to play the game, if they're going to let Tutu on an NFL field. So we need to start giving, women who are obviously willing to take this chance and go out there and play and, take the injuries that come with football, give them the shot. I mean, there's obviously a group of women out there that can do it. Like you said, just give them the opportunity to fail. So my final question for the evening is a fairly obvious question. And for fans of Jamie Counsell, the athlete, where can we catch you next? I mean, are you intending to continue pursuing your football career, or would you entertain a contract offer to play soccer? Are you going to focus strictly on your career off the field?
So not. I don't play too much soccer anymore. I've had a couple knee surgeries, and it's such a tough game. So I've kind of focused on football rather than football lately. And I don't know, the news just broke about the Tri-City Rush, so it's all pretty brand new. So I do want to play again, but what that looks like, I really don't know for sure, just because at the end of the day, I do have bills to pay, and professional football, while it doesn't pay that much. And I've really worked hard on my career outside of sports, working in the sports world and in the broadcasting world as well. So it's kind of a lot to juggle, or a lot to balance. So I have no idea what's next for me, but I will say I'm not just hanging up the boots right away.
Absolutely. I'm happy to hear that. I'm sure the fans are as well. A couple more comments before we get out of here. Celeste, once again, Jamie is much more than just a player on the field. Like I said, being a girl dad, it has opened up so much that has to be opened with girls getting the respect. And then Jeff, look for her on the field in stripes next fall, he says. So he's already campaigning for you to be a referee next fall. That's kind of funny. So go ahead.
Oh, I'm just laughing at Jeff, and yeah, Jesus too. He's such a good person, and like I told him after that game, because of course he's down on himself, and I didn't play up. I'm like, you know what? I could have suited up, and I could have not performed, and that's how it is being in the position, is that you earn the right to fail, and whether you succeed or fail, you earn the right to be in that spot. So, you know, it's nothing against, nothing but love for him, I should say.
Absolutely. So real quick before we get out of here, I wanted to give you an opportunity to shout out anything and everyone that you might want to shout out. I mean, I know everybody wants to come on here, you know, say something about their support system or whatever brands they're running with or whatever it may be. So here's your time.
Oh man, I mean, I have I do have a really good support system. A lot of people that made it out to the game. So anybody that showed their support, whether it be my broadcasting or my football career, even if it's just following my page on Facebook, you know, paying attention, it really does get noticed. And Minot State, my college, I owe a lot to them. And I guess just, yeah, there's so many people, and especially I think Coach Tate, you know, while it is a difficult time, and not just him, but the whole coaching staff. I know Alex Husser, he's in his feelings lately of just going through that he was recruiting players and just what they were able to do for these athletes, and myself included, where, you know, it took a lot to even give me the opportunity, and creating what they did gave other players the opportunity. So I think just the Tri-Cities, Yakima area for welcoming me into their homes, whether it be as a reporter or to people cheering me on the sidelines. It means the world to me, even though, you know, I don't ever directly say that. I do pay attention, and I'm just so thankful. And you know, I even think about the support I've been given, and I'm just like overwhelmed by the amount of it. So I think just thank you to anybody that supports me, no matter what avenue that is in my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So once again, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you spending the last hour or so with me. It's been incredibly fun to learn more about your story, and you truly are an inspiration. I mean, I really hope that you continue playing football, but if it's not in the cards for you, I definitely will be following your career no matter where you end up.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity just to chat with you and share a little bit about my story. And yeah, just really thankful for you taking the interest in my story.
Absolutely. Like I told you off camera, I've been trying to get somebody who was tied to football who was a female on here for a long time. So I'm kind of glad that you and your story, because your story is so unique and you've kind of followed so many different paths. It was very interesting to kind of follow along and, like I said, do the research on everything and ask you a ton of questions off camera, trying to get the you know, nitty gritty on everything. So I really appreciate everything you stuck with me through. And once again, I hope to keep in touch with you in the future.
You as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
You too.
All right. So once again, guys, that was Jamie Council. Stick with her on Jamie Council on the Facebook page. I tagged all of her professional pages on the posts that I put up. You can also find her hudl page tagged in the description. If you're a coach or a scout looking for a kicker, I highly recommend giving Jamie a call. You know, there is a chance that she tells you it's not going to work out for her, but at the same time, there's a high likelihood that you can give her the pitch of a lifetime and maybe she comes your way. I would highly recommend it. She is fairly accurate. I would have played her highlights, although I was not able to download them off Hudl, how I would normally have done it. Hudl's kind of changed up their scheming a little bit, and they're not allowing downloads anymore. So with that being said, go check out that page, check out what she's able to do, because she's definitely a hell of a kicker. She deserves a shot at the professional level, whether that be at the CIF, the IFL, another AWFC team, whatever it may be. I'm firmly encouraged in what she was able to do and other women were able to do in other leagues last season. I hope more of them pop up and continue to kind of break down that wall, and we see ultimately less and less of a gender barrier going forward. It's really only good for football in the long run. But with that being said, thank you all for your support. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Join our Facebook group. If you're a player, you can support yourself there or promote yourself there, promote your content, any of your brands you may be related to, tied to, whatever it may be. With that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great night.